David Kerley, all this technology. What happens to the old cars that you and I used to drive where you'd crank it up with a hand crank on the front? Do you remember that?
I had those days, yeah. I helped somebody start one once. Model T.
Well, I was kidding. I didn't know you had that kind of experience, but why wouldn't you? You cover everything that moves in the Full Throttle Newsletter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cochran. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing fine, David Kerley, and say hi to Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, David. How are you?
Did you get your EV yet?
Nope, and I didn't get a car either that takes gas.
Yeah.
But I'm going to learn more from you today and make a decision later.
She and her husband have been talking about getting a car for 7 months, 8 months, 9 months.
No, like 3 years.
We have too. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about the same thing.
David and I.
My wife and myself.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
Nick Gale, say hi to Dave Kerley.
Hello, sir. How are you?
There you go.
I'm well. I love to hearing Stephen Portnoy. I haven't talked to him for a while.
Yeah,
he's great.
He's so
talking
funny
about the old digs in the White House basement.
He's so funny because he's so buttoned up, and no matter how hard I try to break him, he's just the most buttoned up professional.
I got a great story about Portnoy. Next time we're playing golf, I'll tell you on the third hole as we're watching.
We can't hear it now?
No, because it involves a donkey and a trip to Mexico. No.
Actually, it involves a vehicle and gasoline.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's talk about EVs. We're buying more of them, yes?
Yeah, it's actually been a really good year for the makers of EVs. I think sales, were around 2-3, got to 4%, and boom, over the last year, jumped about 50% to 8% of cars. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a big jump in a short period of time. And this is the transformation that we've seen coming for a few years, and it's gaining some speed. So yeah. But there's still a lot of EVs out there on the lots. A lot of people are thinking about it, but they're kind of anxious about it still.
So, the safety concerns with the batteries, the battery's the holy grail, right?
Absolutely. And that's why you're seeing some of these car makers get into the battery building business. They're building plants to provide themselves with the batteries because it is core, and it is the thing that, in the long run could cost you more with these cars. These cars are actually cost less to maintain. You're basically doing brakes, suspension, maybe something with the air conditioning system. And then the question is, how long is that battery going to last? How many cycles are you going to get out of it? And if you ever have to replace it, and some of them I'm not sure you're actually going to be able to because they're actually part of the chassis, they're part of the car. It's going to be very difficult to change them out. And we've seen some resale values of the first generation EVs kind of go down because the technology is moving forward so quickly and the battery technology is getting better too.
Well, that's the thing. So if somebody is on the fence, and it's great to see that there are more EVs being sold, but if you're on the fence, which I am, because I'd love to have an EV, but I'm not sure we are ready. I'm not sure that we're ready. Not me and my husband. I mean, all of us. So do we wait another 5 years till the technology gets better, the batteries are better, or do you get on the forefront of it all?
Yeah, when do you jump, right? When do you jump into the pool? And that's, it's like I bought a gas-powered car quite a while ago, and years later came new technology in the dash and Apple Play and all these other things. We're at all this technology that I don't have today. But I'm really happy with that vehicle. So I haven't jumped to the new technology. I think you just have to make a decision. Yes, the car that you buy today is going to be outstripped by the car that you would buy 3 years from now. But, at some point you got to pull the trigger, right?
But isn't there going to be a law, like I think California, by the year 2035, everybody has to have an electric vehicle? That's coming.
No, it's 2035. You can't sell an internal combustion engine car in California. That doesn't mean that if you have one, you can't keep driving it.
That law, look, best intent is let's not damage the environment any more than we already have. The idea that 13 years from now that law will go into effect as it's written, it seems insane to me. We just don't change that fast. Now, 100 plus degrees.
Years. I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
100 plus degree days over and over again. Maybe we're all melted by then, but I don't know. I don't see it happen. What about the danger? What about
California?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
California has really led the auto industry. I mean, we think about the big three in Detroit, but California is the state that has demanded changes. The reason you have smog equipment on your car and your emissions are so much cleaner today than they were 30 years ago is California. It wasn't the federal government. It wasn't Detroit. It was California saying, this is what we're going to do. And it's such a big market that the car makers have no choice. They want to sell in California, so they do what California says. So we'll see. 2035 is going to be interesting. I mean, there are a lot. I mean, my last piece about this was we still have some really big concerns, including from the auto industry, about the number of chargers out there, about the chemicals and the minerals to make the batteries. Are there enough of them? Will there be enough? So it's this is a radical change, and it's not going to be a smooth road. And, the free enterprise system is going to weed out some of the winners and some of the losers, but it's not going to be smooth. This is not going to be a smooth transition.
What about the obvious question if it takes fossil fuels to produce electricity the way electricity is made now? So therefore, has anybody done a full study on the net gain or the net loss? And is this publicity, or is it really going to make a difference?
Yeah, there are a lot of studies about that, about where we are and where we're going to go. This is why those on the side who are pushing EVs say alternative energy sources are the answer to get the electrons we need for our cars and everything else that we're doing with electricity. It's kind of interesting. Do you count the output of the refinery to make the gas that goes in your car and then the output of your car? I mean, there are 25 different ways to slice the numbers and look at this, but it appears to me we are going. The government is going that way. The car maker, look at GM says they're going to stop making internal combustion engine cars. Toyota, which has been actually one of the slower ones to develop battery electric vehicles, is speeding up now. They all seem to think that this is where we're going and they need to get on the bandwagon.
Do we have a best electric vehicle to get today? Because I would imagine that there's going to be more makes and models coming from all of these luxury dealers and even the non-luxury by next year, the year after. And it's going to change so quickly. Like I know Cadillac has the Lyriq. Of course, we all know Tesla, BMW has a EV.
Well, the three majors are all retooling. Tesla is the gold standard by nameplate, I suppose. But, the Rivian truck is super cool.
Right.
They're making that downstate. Is one better than the other? We don't know yet.
Well, it's a question of what you like. I mean, I've driven several of these and some are more enjoyable to me than others. There are 55 out there now, 55 different electric vehicles that you can choose from and buy. And you're right, Jane, more are coming. And this is the reason that we haven't pulled the trigger either, is that there are more vehicles coming. And I kind of want to see what the next couple are. I mean, this time next year, if we're talking this time next year, that number of 55, I can't remember what it goes up to, but it's going to be, getting closer and closer to 100 different vehicles.
Now, your masseuse isn't over yet, so can you hang with us? I got a couple more on the other side for you.
Absolutely.
All right. If they come, just have them put the table down quietly.
I have the coffee. I'm good to go.
On a Big 89 WLS, my friend David Kerley, Full Throttle Newsletter. How do we get that, by the way?
David Kerley, DavidKerley.substack.com.
And everything that moves is covered there by one of the best writers I know. A great broadcaster, but this is the new Kerley. And you should get it. You should absolutely get it. It's time for us to do another episode of Live from my office. I'll double back with you on that.
Oh, great.
In the meantime, we are talking about EVs here. Do you think the lottery winner took an EV to Neptune, Florida last night to pick up the winning ticket? In Florida, by the way, I'm hearing that it was a mysterious woman in an expensive coat with dark glasses. I'm thinking Melania. Melania won $1.5 billion. Finally enough money to leave.
Ticket out. Yep.
One of my favorite stories about moving, David Kerley, today is Zoom is asking workers to come back to work. The irony is just perfect. You can't write that.
Yeah, I saw something about Zoom wants your data too. Wants to know what you're doing. I hope they don't, in my basement, in my t-shirt, I don't really want that shared anymore.
I understand. Yeah. I guess
don't take it further than what I.
Well, I was going to say you have to be careful what your background is in your story, right?
Yeah.
There's a great story in the Washington Post. Is it cheaper to refuel your EV battery or your gas tank? They did the math in all 50 states. You can check that out. But the summation of it leads to a couple other things I want to run by you, Mr. Kerley. And the summation is, yes, in general, it's going to be cheaper to EV. But on long trips, depending on the type of car or vehicle you drive, it's going to be cheaper to use gas. So that question is like the questions I've already brought up, remains to be seen.
It also depends on which charger you use, too.
Yeah, so let me talk to you about chargers.
And also, if you're on a trip, then you have to spend 30 minutes waiting for your car to charge.
Well, I was just going to ask, because it's a charging strategy. You got the high-speed fast charger at your house. But, I go by a Meijer and I see 6, 7, 8 charging stations there. I don't need 4 hours in a Meijer while I plug my car into charge.
Right.
So do you have to have a strategy if you have one of these EVs now to make sure that you have places to go?
Yes, you do. And I wrote about that a couple of years ago, actually, on a trip, and I got nicked. I mean, it did not work well. And Jane, this is part of what you have to decide whether you pull the trigger or not. 80% of charging happens at home, and most people do it overnight when the rates go down and you save a lot of money, and you basically use an app to say charge between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. or 5:30 or whatever to get your 80% charge you need to go. So now we're talking about those long trips. And if you're buying a car for that once a year trip, this is something you really got to think about and got to plan on, is where are the chargers? Where can I get a DC fast charger? And if you get a DC fast charger that's going to take 20 or 30 minutes, bring a book, you're going to pay more. And it depends on which state you're in. It depends on, there are a bunch of different providers out there, Electrify America, ChargePoint. There are all kinds of different ones. Tesla, who's now opening up their system to Ford and GM, and other automakers are going to do their own. Once again, this is the bumpy road. It's not all smooth. It's not all fine. But you were right in the beginning, Steve, is that generally, even today, and who knows what it's going to be like 5 years from now, it's cheaper to put electrons in than gasoline.
I have a friend who has an electric car, and he charges it at a university that lives close by. So they never had to install the charger at the house or an outlet that was for charging the car overnight.
Stealing cable.
Yeah, but that's where you have to look at that expense to install it. I have a sister-in-law who installed her own little DIY installation of a charging station at her house and takes many, many road trips in her Tesla. And she has a strategy, has a plan, loves it, will never turn back.
Yeah, it's I got to tell you, I took an EV down to watch a launch, and it was a terrible trip. I learned a ton. I thought I could get all the way down to the launch site and back, and I didn't have enough charge, and there were no DC fast chargers down there where I was. And so I'm limping to, these little level 2 chargers and waiting. I went to dinner and came back, and I think I got 2% on the charge.
Wow.
Now, once I got to a DC supercharger, in Annapolis at, 10 o'clock at night in a Walmart parking lot, I got my charge in, 15, 20 minutes and got home piece of cake. If I had been smarter about it, I would have been fine. So it's live and learn. And
right.
It's great that I had that experience, but as you said, your sister's figured it out. I'm going here. I know that I got a charger here and I need to go to 85, 90%, and then I'll make it to wherever. And, sometimes you have to charge, like in your car, you get down to a quarter tank and you say, I got to get some gas. Mm-hmm. Well, in an EV, you may be at 75% and realize, I need to get 5% now while I can, because I'm going to get to where I need to go. It's just a different way of thinking about it.
There was when Pat Quinn was our governor, he unveiled this plan, and they were going to put the EV chargers at every rest stop, right? The state-owned rest oases, whatever. Didn't really happen. I don't know what stalled that, but it was a public-private partnership at the time with whoever the charge maker company was. The charger people. Right. So I guess my question is, Are you seeing some states that are actually stepping up and taking that initiative, saying, this is part of state infrastructure now? Yeah,
California is, and then California
leads California, though. I mean, we know about California.
No, they're not really a state.
They're not. Not by my standards.
Country, whatever they are. Yeah. So yes, states are, and they're taking advantage of that federal money that the Biden administration got passed, and two, what they call the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the infrastructure bill. There's money in there that they hope to help build these. So they are doing they're sending money to states and counties who have a plan and seeding some of these being built. But that's part of the problem that the auto industry sees. It's just not going fast enough. We're not getting enough charging ports built for the kind of demand we're seeing and the increase in sales of EVs. And that's the balancing act, the chicken and the egg. It's why Jane hasn't decided, one of the reasons she hasn't decided whether to buy or not.
Yeah, you're being kind.
Don't ever go to a Greek restaurant with me. I can't decide and look at that menu either.
We were out at lunch and I was choking. She couldn't decide if she should give me the Heimlich. So, it's part of the deal. Maybe that was a different case. Maybe you were thinking about something else. Hey, before you go, EV fires, real concern or not so much?
It is, but they're getting better with the technology and the way they're, separating the, cells inside the battery, because this is a bunch of little batteries basically making a big battery pack. It's still a concern, but, they're getting better. They're diminishing the risk, but that doesn't mean there's no risk. Just like, who's going to say that your car's not going to blow up from gasoline too?
And how do they get rid of the batteries when they're done? Because that's a big ecological situation.
So there's a big effort to recycle, because some of these minerals that are difficult to get, you can reuse them. So there will be a lot of battery recycling of some of these, everything. Every battery is going to go through recycling. Can't save it all, but you get parts of it that you can reuse.
630 texter said, ask David about diesel trucks and some diesel cars that are out there in regards to all of this.
Diesel
going away as well or slower?
Yeah, in the long run, probably. Yeah, I think so. The one that's going to be interesting for trucks, planes and ships. Think about hydrogen, actually. That's the one place that hydrogen fuel cells may actually work. You create electricity by splitting up the atom and you get, water and electricity. So, Toyota's really big in hydrogen. I think in bigger applications, you may see that. I'm not sure Toyota's idea of putting it in my car is something that's going to happen, because that's a whole nother infrastructure of where you're going to get hydrogen to fuel your cell.
Yeah, and Mike in Orland Park's logical. He texted, look, you're going on a long trip. Rent a gas car for that week if you have an EV. You're driving around here.
That's what I'm saying. You have to make that decision. What are you really just going the 15, 20 miles to work, the majority of the time? And yeah, he's got a great point.
Yeah. I just walk everywhere.
I'm going to buy an electric car now. You just talked me into it.
I just get a Crocodile Dundee hat and a giant knife. I walk everywhere.
Give me a ride when I come to town, Jane.
You bet.
David Kerley, Full Throttle. David Kerley, Kerley, davidkerley.substack.com. Thank you, sir.
Way to go, Cochran. You just got me another subscriber. Just popped into the mailbox.
Look at
me.
Look at me. Unbelievable. Making you rich. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks,
See you later.